Thursday, August 31st, 2023, AGNDD Intellireport topic. DC sniper attacks. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this entirely AI-generated Wikipedia-sourced video article.
Between February and September 2002, a series of shootings occurred in the United States, resulting in 2 deaths and several injuries. The shootings were eventually linked to John Allen Muhammad and Lee Malvo. Between February and September 2002, a series of shootings occurred in different states in the United States. The shootings resulted in 2 deaths and several injuries. The victims included a cashier, a golfer, a pizzeria owner, liquor store employees, and others. The shootings were eventually linked to John Allen Muhammad and Lee Malvo, who were arrested in October 2002. On October 2, 2002, a shot was fired through the window of a Michael's craft store in Aspen Hill, Maryland, narrowly missing a cashier. An hour later, a man was shot and killed in a grocery store parking lot. The following morning, 4 more people were shot dead in the area within a span of 2 hours. The victims were killed by a single bullet fired from a distance, and the killers remained unidentified. Fear spread throughout the region, and schools went into lockdown. Police had limited evidence, including reports of a white box truck and a blue Chevrolet Caprice. Malvo and Muhammad began spacing out their shootings, taking 2 or 3 days between each one. On October 4th, a woman named Caroline Sewell was wounded in a parking lot. On October 7th, a 13-year-old student named Iran Brown was shot and critically wounded at his middle school. On October 9th and 11th, 2 more men were shot and killed while pumping gas. On October 14th, an FBI analyst named Linda Franklin was shot and killed in a parking lot. On October 19th, another man was shot but survived. On October 21st, 2 men were mistakenly arrested but were found to have no connection to the shooter. The D.C. area shootings in 2002 resulted in extensive media coverage, with news networks providing live coverage of the aftermath of each attack. The New York Times coverage of the case was later found to be fabricated, leading to the resignations of top editors. Public fear increased during the attacks, leading to heightened security at gas stations, government buildings, and tourist attractions. School districts took precautions, such as canceling outdoor activities and increasing police presence. The release of the film Phone Booth was delayed due to its potentially upsetting content. The investigation into the sniper attacks was led by the Montgomery County Police Department, with assistance from various other law enforcement agencies. Eyewitness accounts were confusing, and tips flooded in through hotlines. The shooter left tarot cards and handwritten notes at crime scenes and attempted to engage the police in a dialogue. A phone call from the shooter was traced to a gas station in Virginia, but the suspects had already left. The shooter mentioned a previous unsolved murder in Montgomery, Alabama, which led authorities to link the fingerprints found at the crime scenes to Lee Boyd Malvo, who had ties to John Allen Muhammad. Federal authorities were secretly making progress in their investigation of the D.C. sniper case. They developed leads in Washington State, Alabama, and New Jersey, including information about Muhammad's ex-wife and a car he purchased. The car, a dark blue Chevrolet Caprice, had been checked by police near shooting locations, but was not stopped because it was not flagged as connected to any criminal activity. However, witnesses later reported seeing a Caprice near the scene of one of the shootings. The car was later found to have been an undercover police car in New Jersey. On October 24, 2002, the crime spree of John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo came to an end when they were found sleeping in their car at a rest stop in Maryland and arrested on federal weapons charges. The police were tipped off by 2 911 calls. The suspect's escape route was sealed off by law enforcement, and a stolen weapon linked to 11 of the 14 shootings was found in Muhammad's car. The attacks involved a stolen Bushmaster XM15 rifle with a Bushnell holographic sight, capable of shooting up to 300 meters. The attackers used a modified Chevrolet Caprice as a mobile sniper's nest, with the trunk serving as a hiding spot. The back seat was altered to allow access to the trunk, where the sniper could lie down and shoot through a small hole near the license plate. During pretrial motions, investigators and the prosecution suggested that the motive behind the shootings was Muhammad's intention to kill his second ex-wife, Mildred, who he believed had estranged him from his children. Muhammad wanted to cover up this motive by making the shootings appear to be the work of a random serial killer. However, the judge prevented prosecutors from presenting this theory during the trial. Malvo, on the other hand, wrote about a jihad against the United States while in prison, but investigators dismissed any terrorist ties or political ideologies as a motive. At the trial, Malvo testified that the purpose of the killing spree was to kidnap children for extortion and to train them to terrorize cities driven by Mohammed's hatred for white people. Before the trial, Chief Moose went on a publicity tour for his book on the sniper investigation, which some criticized as potentially damaging the case. Change of venue requests were granted, and the first trials were held in cities far from the alleged attacks. Muhammad and Malvo were found guilty in the Virginia trials, with Muhammad receiving the death penalty and Malvo receiving life in prison. Malvo later pleaded guilty to another murder to avoid the death penalty. Prosecutors in Prince William County decided not to pursue charges against Malvo after a Supreme Court ruling, but other states were still interested in prosecuting him. Muhammad's death penalty was affirmed by the Virginia Supreme Court. On November 10, 2009, John Allen Muhammad was executed by lethal injection in Virginia. His attorneys had tried to appeal the execution, but their requests were denied by the U.S. Supreme Court and Virginia Governor Tim Kaine. Muhammad was pronounced dead at 9:11 p.m. EST, and he did not make any last words before his execution. 27 people, including family members of his victims, witnessed the execution. In 2005, agreements were reached between Virginia and Maryland to allow Maryland to prosecute charges related to the shootings. Malvo and his legal team were willing to negotiate his cooperation, and he waived extradition to Maryland. Muhammad's legal team fought against extradition but were unsuccessful. Malvo pleaded guilty to 6 murders and confessed to others, receiving 6 consecutive life terms without parole. Muhammad was found guilty of 6 counts of murder in Maryland and sentenced to 6 consecutive life terms without parole. Muhammad later requested to end his legal appeals. In John Allen Muhammad's trial, Lee Boyd Malvo confessed to the 17 murders and provided a detailed account of their plans. Malvo admitted to lying in a previous trial to protect Muhammad from the death penalty. He testified about the 3 phases of their plan, which involved killing white people in the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore areas, targeting a pregnant woman and a police officer in Baltimore, and extorting money from the U.S. government to recruit and train young boys for future mass shootings across the country. According to the Seattle Times, the store where the Beltway sniper obtained the rifle used in the attacks had a history of firearms sales and records violations. The store, Bullseye Shooter Supply, had its federal firearms license revoked by the ATF in 2003. The families of the victims filed a civil lawsuit against the store, as well as the gun distributor and manufacturer, claiming negligence and failure to keep proper records. The case was settled out of court, with Bullseye contributing $2 million and the gun manufacturer contributing $500,000. There are 2 memorials dedicated to the victims of the D.C. area sniper attacks. One is located at Brookside Gardens in Wheaton, Maryland, and the other was built in 2014 in the Government Plaza of Rockville, Maryland. The D.C. sniper attacks, which occurred in 2002, have been the subject of various television shows and documentaries. These include episodes of CSI, Miami, Law & Order, Forensic Files, Sue Thomas, FBI, and Born to Kill. There was also a television movie called D.C. Sniper, 23 Days of Fear, a documentary in BET's American Gangster series, and a film called D.C. Sniper. Mildred Muhammad, the ex-wife of one of the snipers, appeared on CNN's Larry King Live and in the documentary The D.C. Sniper's Wife. The attacks were also featured in an episode of Aftermath with William Shatner and the film Blue Caprice. In 2015, Lifetime Movie Network aired an episode of Monster in My Family, and in 2023, Netflix aired an episode of Catching Killers about the D.C. sniper attacks. Former Montgomery County Police Chief Charles Moose, who led the investigation into the Beltway sniper attacks in 2003, wrote a book called 3 Weeks in October, The Manhunt for the Serial Sniper. The podcast You're Wrong About also produced a 4-part series in 2020, exploring the connection between John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo, the perpetrators of the attacks. Additionally, iHeartRadio and Tenderfoot TV covered the attacks in the 3rd season of their true crime podcast, Monster. The series of shootings in the United States between February and September 2002 left 2 dead and many injured. John Allen Muhammad and Lee Malvo were eventually arrested for the crimes.
Thank you for watching this AGNDD Intellireport. Like, subscribe, and click the bell button to get notified during new uploads. And make sure to tune in next time. Stay safe and healthy. Cheers.